How's it going, everyone? Today we are discussing the most provocative math problem online that I have ever seen, which is ironic because it's a rather straightforward elementary school level arithmetic question. I didn't think it would be so provocative, but it was. So I'll show you the problem, I'll show you the solution, and I will go through the reasons why this problem creates so many, problems. So let's get into it. All Day Astronomy posted this question. 6 divided by 2 open bracket 1 plus 2 close bracket equals. With the comment, can you solve this? It seems simple but complicated. And I solved it, and I did not expect the reaction that it got. Here I wrote, mathematician here, it's not complicated. The 2 is dividing, the 3 in brackets, that's the 1 plus 2 in brackets, is multiplying. So the question is 6 divided by 2 times 3, which is 3 times 3, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that equals 9. Now, I won't go through all the responses here. Some of them were just, thank you, or I agree, or along those lines, and others were in disagreement, and some were just angry with disagreement. And I was surprised by this. I didn't think it would result in such intense reaction from people. So I want to go through why the solution is what it is, and why this question can throw people off, because it is actually a trick. Questions like this circle the internet every once in a while, and it's always the same trick at play here. It is in fact written in a way intended to trick people, and I will show you what that trick is and the most common errors that people make when solving these kinds of questions. So let's go to the whiteboard. And what nobody disagrees with is that what is in the brackets is performed first, and that happens to be a 3. Now at this point, there's some disagreement. If you do the problem the correct way, you'll do 6 divided by 2, which is a 3, and when you multiply that by 3, you will get 9. Now, here's where people make a mistake. They do 2 times 3 first. So, don't do this. 6 divided by 6, which is 1. Now, here's why that's wrong. There are 4 main errors that lead people into making this mistake, and we will go through all of them. The first error has to do with the way the question is written. It is intentionally written to trick you, and here's why. There are 2 different ways in mathematics to write multiplication and division. One way, which people are usually taught, is x means multiply, and a line with dots above and below it means divided by. But after high school, instead, multiplication is represented by putting a number in brackets beside another number. And division is represented by writing numbers as a fraction, where the numerator is divided by the denominator. These are much more clear ways of writing multiplication and division. The way the question is written mixes up these 2 methods. The dividing is written using the division sign, which is taught in grade school, but the multiplication is written using brackets. And what that does is the 2 is much closer to the brackets than it is to the 6, which makes us think that the 2 and the set of brackets should be treated as one thing. And we do 2 times 3, we get a 6, and we do 6 divided by 6. Each time these kinds of questions make the rounds on the internet, they always use this trick to confuse the viewer. Imagine the question were written as follows. 6 divided by 2 times 3. Every number is spaced pretty much the same from every other number, and you're less likely to think that the 2 and the 3 are one thing. You would just do it in a straightforward way, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and when you multiply that by 3, you get 9. Now imagine instead the question were written this way. 6 divided by 2 times 3. This is using the method that professionals use when they do mathematical calculations. Again, you would not think of multiplying the 2 by the 3. You would see, well, 6 divided by 2, that simplifies to 3, and you would have 3 times 3, which again equals 9. Or maybe you'll multiply the 6 by the 3 first, and you'll have 18 divided by 2, which once again is 9. So if you stick to the same method of writing, it doesn't trick the audience, and the question becomes much more straightforward. So that's the main thing that is used in this question to mix people up. Now, there are 3 other reasons why people often make an error solving these kinds of questions. The other reason, the next one we'll handle, is that people don't realize that the operation, like multiplication or division, always has to be attached to some number, specifically the number to the right. We start with a 6, and then we perform some set of instructions to that 6. And the set of instructions involve an operation and a number. If one were to just write 6 divided by, well, that's not a complete set of instruction. It doesn't tell you what to do. If someone were to write 6 2, you would say, well, 2 what? What do I do with this 2? Just like in the first situation, okay, divided, but divided by what? But if you write 6 divided by 2, that is a clear instruction. Divide something by 2. So every mathematical process of this nature has to have an operation and a number. We start with our 6, and we're performing 2 sets of instructions. Divide by 2 and multiply by 3. And you can perform these instructions in any order. You can divide by 2 first and get 3 times 3. Or you can multiply by 3 first, and you have 6 times 3, which is 18, and the divided by 2 is left over. Either way, the answer is 9. The next error that people often make is they don't realize that multiplication and division can be performed in any order. And this error, combined with the one we just discussed, can create a bit of an issue. Now, when we talk about the order of operations, most people watching this channel have probably heard of BEDMAS. Brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. But in some countries, or in some regions, some cities, it's taught differently. They are taught PEMDAS. Parentheses, which means brackets, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Now you'll notice that multiplication and division have a reverse order in this situation. Now why is that? Are the rules of math different in different places? No. Multiplication and division can be done in any order, just like addition and subtraction can be done in any order, as long as you're doing it right. And as long as all your multiplication and division is done before all of your addition and subtraction and after all of your exponents. If you remember not to make the previous mistake, if you remember that every operation is attached to a specific number, then you can do multiplication and division in any order and not run into any issues. Division, after all, is just a form of multiplication. Dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by 1 over that number. For example, 4 divided by 2 is the same as 4 times 1/2. And that's the case for all numbers. So here's a common error that people made and make with these kind of questions. 6 divided by 2 times 3. They think, well, by PEMDAS, the M is before the D, so multiplication has to be done first. And they take the 2 times 3, multiply it, and get 6. And then they have 6 divided by 6, which is 1. Now, what's the problem here? It's not that they're multiplying first. You could multiply first. You don't have to, but you could. The problem is that they're separating the division from the 2, and you can't. The divided by 2 is one set of instructions. You can't just break it up. It's like cutting a word in half and treating it like two different words, and that could give the sentence a whole different meaning when you separate one half of the word and put it somewhere else. You can multiply first, as long as you're multiplying the 6, and then divide by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. In fact, you can rearrange the question like this and divide first. Instead of multiplying by 3, you can multiply by 3 divided by 2. 6 times 1.5. That's also 9. Now, in this notation, that might seem confusing. Well, how come I can do 3 divided by 2 and multiply by the result, but I can't do 2 times 3 and divide by the result? But if you write it using the notation that professionals use during calculations, you have 6 over 2 times 3. So, you can multiply the 6 and the 3 first and get 18 over 2. You can divide the 6 by 2 first and get 3 times 3, or you can divide the 3 by 2 first, and you get 1.5. And 6 times 1.5 is 9. So that's that second error, is thinking that you have to multiply first and then combining that with the first error where you separate the 2 from the division. Now, the one thing I'd like to address is a common question that people may have, which is, if we write something like this and you rewrite it to put the multiply by 3 first, how come we can do 3 divided by 2 and get 1.5? Isn't that a case of separating the 3 from the multiplication? Well, it's not, and we see that if we write the division as multiplication, because remember, division is just a special type of multiplication. If we have 6 times 3 times 1 over 2, because dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1 over 2, then we just have a string of multiplication. And we can multiply in any order we want. So we could write this as 3 times 1 over 2 times 6, which is 1.5 times 6, which is 9. Now, let's look at the original form of the question. If we write it as 6 times 1 over 2 times 3, again, we could do the 1 over 2 times 3 first, right? Which is the same as 1 over 2 times 3, then times 6, because it's all multiplication. You can do it in any order. And you have 1.5 times 6, which is 9. That's why it's not a case of separating the 3 from the multiplication, because you're just doing 6 times 3 times 1/2. And you can multiply those 3 in any order. Whereas if you have 6 divided by 2 times 3, and you somehow turn that into 6 divided by 2 times 3 in brackets, which is equal to 6 times 1 over 6, well, when you write that in fraction form, you see how nonsensical it is. 6 times 1 over 2 times 3, how do you turn this into 1/6? You can't. 1 over 2 times 3 is 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2, which is 1.5. It's 1.5. And we know that 1/2 times 3 is 1.5, not 1/6. Now, the final error that people make is that they think that brackets means that not only is what's inside the brackets done first, but what's beside the brackets is done first as well. So when we have the original problem, the 1 plus 2 is in brackets, so it has to be done first. The whole point of brackets is to symbolize, hey, do this first. But what's the this? The this is the thing that's inside the brackets, which is the 1 plus 2. Turn that into a 3. You treat that as if it's one number. That's it. That's the only thing the brackets means when we say do what's in the brackets first, or the brackets come first. It does not mean that all operations performed to the brackets come first. In this case, the brackets are multiplying something, and we have to do that before we work with the 6. That's just not true. This is just another way of writing multiplication. 6 divided by 2 times 3. So this has to do with the first error of mixing up the two different ways of writing multiplication and division, and it looks as if the 2 and the 3 are one thing, even though they are not. And it's something that has to do with the other error we talked about, where people separate the division from the 2. You can't do that. Divided by 2 is one piece of instruction, and you can't just separate them. You should treat this as 6 divided by 2 times 3. You can divide the 6 by 2 first, or you can multiply it by 3 first. Either way, you're going to get a 9. So those are all the errors that people make. Now, in order to get 1, the question would have to be written as follows. 6 divided by open bracket 2 open bracket 1 plus 2. Then we get our 6 in the larger set of brackets, and we do that. We multiply the 2 by 3 because it's in brackets, that larger set of brackets, and those brackets say do what's on the inside first. Then you get 6 divided by 6, and then you get a 1. So I hope that clears everything up and makes it much easier for you to solve similar kind of puzzles, which always make the rounds now and then online. And again, they all use the same trick by mixing up the two different types of notation for division and multiplication. So I hope you enjoyed that, and until next time.